I'm holding something really special in my hand. This guy is an inductor. Earlier, I made a series on the capacitor, and the equivalent opposite of a capacitor is an inductor. A capacitor stores energy in an electric field, while an inductor stores it in a magnetic field, i.e. electromagnetism. The principle of an inductor is very different to a capacitor, however. It is a copper wire, or any conducting wire to be fair, wrapped around a medium, such as this wire wrapped around this marker, so that when a current is going through this wire, a magnetic field is created. Hopefully we know that when there is current going through a wire, an electromagnetic field is generally created around one. But this is a unique case where the wire is being wrapped around a coil. The current is very important in this relationship. As the current changes, so does the electromagnetic field. As the current increases, the electromagnetic field increases, and as the current decreases, the electromagnetic field decreases. Changing an electromagnetic field induces a voltage in the coil in the opposite direction of the current. I'll chat about that in a little while. If we look at a wire that has coils in it, we know that there is an electromagnetic field in each coil. Because the coils are so close together, however, they kind of stack on top of each other. There are all these definitions for inductance and how a magnetic field develops inside a coil. And I'm going to give you my explanation as to why this happens. It's probably not exactly the most scientific, but it's the way my mind works. As the current begins to go through the wire, an electromagnetic field is established across the wire as well. And then when the wire coils, the electromagnetic fields start to interact. It takes some time for the coil to sort itself out. There's a magnetic field there, and they're overlapping, and it needs some time to sort out the magnetic field that is there. So initially, when you turn on your circuit, you turn on your current, the coil panics and it needs to stop the current from flowing for the first few seconds because it needs to sort out its magnetic field. As more time passes, more current is allowed to pass through. This is a typical behavior of an inductor in a DC circuit. I was always told never to personify anything in physics, but if your mind works in this way, perhaps this explanation works best. The energy that is stored in the coil is half times the inductance times the current to be squared. And if you want to measure the inductance of your inductor or calculate it, here's a general equation for it. L is equal to n squared mu A over L. A is the cross-sectional area. In the example of my pen earlier, it will be the cross-sectional area here, or if we slice it down the middle, assuming that it's all the same, it will be the shape of the circle that we see in there, pi r squared. L is the length of the coil. N is the number of times we wrap the wire around this pen. And finally, mu is the permeability. It is the ability of an electromagnetic field to be established. And it ultimately depends on what your inner core is made up of. Here I've demonstrated a very simple mathematical problem where given the number of times the wire is wrapped around, we know that the area is pi r squared, so we need to extract the radius. The permeability is given, and so is the length. The unit for inductance is Henry, and usually we won't be using that unit very often because that is a very large value. Usually inductors are very, very small, to the range of millihenries. Before I get to the official definitions of inductance, I want to cover the definition of two laws, Faraday's law and Lenz's law. Faraday's law states that the amount of voltage induced in a coil is directly proportional to the rate of change of the magnetic field with respect to the coil. That d phi dt is the rate of change of the magnetic field. That is magnetic flux. The constant that changes this from directly proportional to an equation is the number of coils. Lenz's law states that as the current through a coil changes, an induced voltage is created because of the changing electromagnetic field. And the polarity of the induced voltage is such that it always opposes the change in current. I had already mentioned or hinted this a while ago. What this means that the polarity of the inductor, as in where the positive and negative potential on either side of the inductor is, will literally switch to oppose the flow of current. So for the first few moments in time when you switch the DC circuit on, the polarity of the inductor will literally switch in the opposite direction. This is very, very useful in AC circuits. So finally, looking at the definition, inductance is the measure of a coil's ability to establish an induced voltage as a result of change in its current, and the induced voltage is in the direction to oppose the change in current. It's a bit of a combination of Faraday's and Lenz's law. Putting these guys together allows us to express the equation V induced, the voltage induced, is equal to L, the inductance, times di dt, which is the rate of change of current, how current changes per unit time. Similar to a capacitor, an inductor has a time constant tau. As you begin to charge an inductor, it initially doesn't allow current through, but give enough time and it will allow current to pass through. Tau is the time constant when it reaches 68% of the maximum current that it allows to go through. The same is true when the inductor is charged and you disconnect it from the voltage source. As it discharges, tau is equal to when 68% of the charge has dissipated. Hi, Bambi. Evil bunny. Batteries and voltage sources are not ideal. They have an internal resistance and sometimes we need to take it into consideration when we have a very intricate system. The same is true for inductors. But there's two things we need to take into consideration. Because an inductor is basically a wire that is wrapped around, it is very, very, very long, and therefore there is inherent resistance associated with the wire. So sometimes we put it in series with an inductor and we refer to it as the winding resistance. Another thing is true is that there's something called a winding capacitance. We put the capacitance in parallel with the inductor. When you look closely to a wire wrapped around this pen, there is a capacitance associated with each coil beside themselves. That is why it is set up in parallel. Most of the time, especially the way I teach things, I usually don't need to take it into consideration. But sometimes it is important to take winding resistance and winding capacitance into consideration in your system. Again, especially if you're doing very, very careful measurements. Again, inductors are the opposite of capacitance in the sense that when they are inductors in series, we add them up, kind of like resistors. And when we have inductors in parallel, we add the inverse of them. Again, very similar to how we treat resistors in parallel. I mentioned earlier that inductors are very important in AC circuits. Let me show you a really interesting thing that happens between voltage and current. So remember in a DC circuit, we turn on the voltage source, and the inductor panics. It's got all these different coils and it needs to sort out the current that is going through the coil, and so it stops current initially. Then over time, it lets more and more through. We say that the current lags the inductor voltage. So if you look at the plot here of current versus voltage, they're constantly 90 degrees out of phase, as demonstrated with the phasor diagram. This is the important manipulation source of inductors in AC circuits. Again, very similar to capacitors, there is a reactance associated with inductors. The reactance is basically the resistance of the inductor in an AC circuit, and we have to use AC circuits because there's a frequency associated with this. The equation for reactance is equal to 2 pi f times L. It's dependent on two things, the value of the inductor and the frequency that the AC circuit is operating on. Let's go back to our very first definition of inductance. V induced is equal to L times di dt, the rate of change of current. Here in this diagram, I'm trying to explain the rate of change of current and frequency. If the frequency of your current is changing more rapidly, the rate of change of current, the steepness of the slope, increases. So as you increase the frequency of your wave, you're increasing the rate of change of current. And the opposite is true. If your slope is less steep, i.e. you're decreasing the frequency, you're also decreasing the rate of change of current. So when we look at the equation V induced is directly proportional to the rate of change of current, if we're increasing the frequency, it means that we're increasing the rate of change of current, and we're also then increasing the voltage that is induced. If we keep the rate of change of current, i.e. frequency, constant, it means that if we increase the inductance, we also increase the induced voltage, or the opposite is true. If we decrease the inductance, we decrease the voltage induced. So remember, if there is more current flowing through, that means you have less resistance. If you have less current flowing through, it must mean that you have higher resistance. This is why the reactance is directly proportional to the frequency and the inductance. Here is a little mathematical example of how we would use it. Let's say in our AC circuit, we set the source to 3000 Hertz. The inductor is 10 millihenries. By subbing in our values, 2 times pi times the frequency, which is 3000, times the inductance, which is 10 by 10 to the minus 3, we get an answer of 188.5 ohms. Reactance is the same unit as resistance. This is really important when you get to a little bit more complicated circuits, where you have capacitors, resistors, and inductors, and they're all out of phase with each other, and you have to keep track of something called impedance. But that is another video for another time. I hope you found this educational and useful. Happy circuiting. What do you think, Bambi? Did you learn about inductors? This is what happens sometimes. I teach a subject in the most advanced ways, and then I question the most basic physics, and I need to pause in the middle of a video to think thoroughly, and I have to go back to the most fundamental physics to make sure that it's all right in my head.